Hey guys, it's Haley. Today we're going to be describing the secondary structure of DNA and its significance to hereditary. So first off, what is DNA? DNA is hereditary material in humans and almost all other organisms. It's usually located in the nucleus of cells, but small amounts are found within the mitochondria, which is called mitochondrial DNA. DNA makes copies of itself, and it's passed down from parent to offspring. The full name of DNA is deoxyribose nucleic acid, and it has a very unique structure. It's made up of repeating units called bases that code for everything that makes up our bodies. There's 4 bases that make up DNA, and these code for traits like hair color or blood type. So, like all proteins, DNA has 4 levels of structure. The primary structure is a sequence of amino acids, and this is more of a list of the individual amino acids that create a polypeptide chain, and this is going to set the foundation for the secondary structure. Now, the final protein structure extremely depends on this sequence, and this is where the base of everything comes in. The secondary structure, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a minute, basically consists of hydrogen bonds of the polypeptide backbone, which causes the amino acids to fold into a repeating pattern. This comes from interactions between neighboring amino acids as the polypeptide starts to fold into its functional form. The hydrogen bonds form between local amino acids to create structures within small sections of the chain. And we'll talk about this more in a bit. Some other secondary structures for proteins include alpha helixes and beta pleated sheets. Next, we're going to talk about the tertiary protein structure of proteins. This is going to be the overall 3D shape of the protein once all of the secondary structure elements have folded in together. This is due to interactions between polar and nonpolar acidic and basic R groups within the chain. This is also going to be the functional group. The quaternary protein structure consists of more than one amino acid chain. This has to do with how subunits of proteins are oriented and arranged and forms multiple polypeptide chains. Now, like I said, we're going to get back into the secondary structure of DNA. So, as you probably know, DNA forms a double helix shape, and this was first discovered by Rosalind Franklin. Base pairs are what are going to largely determine the secondary structure of DNA and form the rungs on the ladder-like shape. So, the 4 base pairs that we have are adenine and thymine, and then guanine and cytosine, and these 4 pair up with each other. With adenine and thymine forming 2 hydrogen bonds, and guanine and cytosine forming 3 hydrogen bonds. Now these are going to form a uniform structure with no bulges or gaps within the double helix. Polynucleotide chains form the sides of the helix, or the sides of the ladder. Now these are going to be created by 5 carbon sugar molecules, which are attached to one or more phosphate groups, as well as the base pairs that we mentioned previously. As the name might suggest, the sugar that forms the structure is a deoxyribose sugar specifically, hence the name. And lastly, nucleotides are linked together by covalent bonds and form a chain of alternating sugars and phosphates. It's also worth noting that the sides of the ladder run in opposite polarities from a 5' to a 3' chain. But what does this mean when it comes to hereditary? As I mentioned earlier, DNA codes for information for the cells by using combinations of base pairs. These are called genes, and they're responsible for encoding proteins that determine everything that cells do for biological functions. And cells translate these sequences into amino acid sequences to create proteins. And the complete set of information in an organism's DNA is called its genome, which is all of the information for all of the proteins that the organism will ever be capable of synthesizing. This is replicated during a process called DNA replication and is passed on to daughter cells during replication. Now, in terms of meiosis, this is especially important because during sexual reproduction, to produce a viable offspring, 50% of the maternal DNA and 50% of the paternal DNA is needed to create an offspring, which is why you probably look like a mixture of both of your parents' features, such as eye color or hair color. I hope this video helps.